Before we begin, a quick and important disclaimer. This presentation is for informational and educational purposes only. I am not an attorney, and the information provided in this video does not, and is not intended to, constitute legal advice. The law varies from state to state and is constantly changing. For advice on any specific legal issue, you should always consult with a licensed attorney in your jurisdiction. This video does not create an attorney-client relationship. You get a call from a debt collector about a bill you don't even recognize. Your neighbor's new fence is 3 feet onto your property. The dream house you just bought has a massive water leak the seller never mentioned. Or you have a brilliant idea for a business, but you have no idea how to protect it. In a split second, life can throw a problem at you that you can't solve on your own. A problem so serious it threatens your money, your family, your home, or your future. And in that moment, you realize you need a lawyer. But what kind of lawyer? That one question is where most people make their first and most expensive mistake. Because hiring the wrong type of lawyer is like bringing a chef to fix your car's engine. They might be brilliant at what they do, but they're completely useless for your specific problem. It's a mistake that wastes thousands of dollars, months of your time, and can even cause you to lose a case you should have won. There are over 1.3 million lawyers in the United States. They aren't all the same. They are highly specialized professionals, each trained for a different kind of fight. And in today's world, not knowing the difference between a litigator and a transactional attorney, or a family lawyer and an estate planner, is like trying to navigate a minefield blindfolded. This isn't just a list of job titles. This is your field guide. This is your owner's manual for navigating the most complex and high-stakes situations you will ever face. Over the next 10 parts, we are going to demystify the legal world. We're going to break down the most common types of lawyers you are ever likely to need one by one. By the end of this, you will be able to identify the exact specialist you need for virtually any problem. You'll understand their unique language, you'll know the critical questions to ask, and you'll recognize the red flags that scream, "Run away." This knowledge is a shield, and it's a sword. It can save you from financial ruin and empower you to protect what's yours. So, let's start with the one you've definitely seen on billboards and TV commercials, usually pointing a finger right at you. The personal injury lawyer. The stereotype is the ambulance chaser, the slick salesman promising a giant payday. But let's ignore the cheesy commercials for a second and talk about what they actually do, because it's one of the most critical legal roles for the average person. A personal injury, or PI lawyer, represents you when you've been physically or emotionally harmed because someone else was careless or negligent. Their entire job is to make you whole again, at least financially, after an accident that wasn't your fault. Think about it. You're stopped at a red light, scrolling through a podcast, and bam, a distracted driver slams into your car at 40 miles an hour. Your head whips back, your car is totaled, and suddenly you have neck pain, a concussion, and a stack of medical bills that would make your jaw drop. The other driver's insurance company calls you the very next day. They are so friendly. "So sorry for what happened." They offer you $5,000 to make it all go away. "Just sign here." This is the moment of truth. That friendly insurance adjuster's job is to pay you the absolute minimum possible. They work for a multi-billion-dollar corporation that has entire teams of lawyers dedicated to protecting their profits. You have a headache in a wrecked car. It is not a fair fight. This is when you call a personal injury lawyer. They step in and become your champion. They handle everything. They talk to the insurance companies. They collect the police reports and medical records. They hire experts to reconstruct the accident. They calculate not just your current medical bills, but your future ones. They factor in the wages you lost from being unable to work. And they put a value on your pain and suffering, the real human cost of the accident. They level the playing field against giants. Personal injury law covers a huge range of incidents. The most common is car accidents, trucks, motorcycles, you name it. But it also includes slip and fall cases, or premises liability. If you slip on a wet, unmarked floor in a grocery store and break your leg, the store owner may be liable. It covers medical malpractice, when a doctor or hospital's negligence causes you harm. It covers dog bites, defective products that injure you, and tragically wrongful death cases where a family loses a loved one due to someone else's negligence. Now, here is the single most important thing to understand about personal injury lawyers, and it's why they are accessible to everyone, not just the wealthy. They almost always work on a contingency fee basis. This phrase is key. Contingency fee means you pay them nothing up front. Zero. Their payment is contingent on them winning your case. If they get you a settlement or win at trial, they take a percentage of that award, typically around 33%. If they lose, you owe them nothing for their time and effort. This is a game changer. It means they are taking a financial risk on you and your case. They are betting their own money and time that they can win. This aligns their interests perfectly with yours. They are motivated to get you the largest possible settlement because that's how they get paid, too. It gives everyday people the power to take on massive corporations and insurance companies without having to worry about coming up with tens of thousands of dollars for legal fees. But be warned, the clock is always ticking. Every state has a law called the Statute of Limitations. This is a strict deadline on how long you have to file a lawsuit after an accident. In some states, it might be 2 or 3 years. In others, it could be as short as 1 year. If you wait too long, even by 1 day, your right to sue can be extinguished forever. The insurance company knows this. They will happily drag their feet and delay, hoping you'll miss that deadline. That's why, if you are ever seriously injured, one of your first calls should be to a reputable PI attorney to understand your rights and your deadline. Don't sign anything, don't give a recorded statement to the other party's insurance, and don't assume they are on your side. Their job is to protect their company. A personal injury lawyer's job is to protect you. And that protection is crucial because the numbers don't lie. Studies have consistently shown that personal injury victims who hire a lawyer receive, on average, settlements that are 3 to 4 times larger than those who try to handle it themselves. 3 to 4 times. That's the difference between just covering your immediate medical bills and actually being compensated for your lost wages, your future therapy, your pain, and the way this injury has permanently altered your life. It's the difference between a crisis and a future. But what happens when the battle isn't with a faceless insurance corporation? What happens when the person on the other side of the table is someone you know intimately, someone you built a life with? This brings us to one of the most emotionally charged and widespread areas of law, family law. When most people hear family lawyer, they immediately think of one thing: divorce. And they're not wrong. Divorce is a massive part of what these attorneys handle. But to think that's all they do is to miss the entire picture. A family lawyer is essentially a specialist in the laws that govern our most personal relationships. They handle prenuptial agreements, which aren't about planning for failure, but are about starting a marriage with total financial transparency and a clear plan, like a business partnership. They handle adoptions, helping build new families. They deal with paternity cases, and sadly, they step in to get protective orders in cases of domestic violence. But let's focus on divorce, because it's where a family lawyer's guidance is most critical. Imagine a couple, let's call them David and Jessica. After 15 years and 2 kids, they've decided to split. David thinks, we're amicable. We can figure this out ourselves. Why pay lawyers? He moves out to give Jessica space, thinking it's the right thing to do. He starts paying her half his salary directly, thinking he's being fair. He agrees verbally that she can stay in the house with the kids. What David doesn't realize is that he just made 3 catastrophic mistakes. By moving out of the marital home in some states, he may have unintentionally signaled he was abandoning the property, potentially weakening his claim to it. By sending her money without a formal agreement, it might not be legally recognized as alimony or child support, just a gift. And his verbal agreement about custody? It's worth nothing in court. Now imagine Jessica hires a family lawyer. The lawyer immediately files the proper motions. They secure a temporary order for child support and alimony, making David's payments official. They begin the process of discovery, legally requiring David to turn over all financial records. Not just pay stubs, but investment accounts, retirement funds, and business assets he might have preferred to keep quiet. The lawyer identifies the marital assets, including the portion of David's 401k that grew during the marriage, which Jessica is legally entitled to. By the time David realizes he's in over his head, he's already on the defensive. The amicable split has become a strategic nightmare, and he's months behind. This isn't because Jessica or her lawyer are evil. It's because her lawyer's job is to protect Jessica's rights and secure the best possible future for her and her children, using the full power of the law. David, by trying to be nice without legal advice, inadvertently gave up his own rights. A good family lawyer guides you through the division of assets, the calculation of spousal and child support, and most importantly, the creation of a parenting plan. Who gets the kids on Thanksgiving? Who pays for braces? How are major decisions about education and healthcare made? Without a lawyer, these are just future arguments waiting to happen. With a lawyer, they become a legally binding document that provides clarity and stability for the children. which is the single most important goal. So if you're facing a change in your family structure, whether it's a divorce or an adoption, a family lawyer isn't a luxury for contentious fights. They are a necessary guide to ensure the process is fair, final, and legally sound, protecting you and the people you love most. Navigating a divorce can feel like your entire world is on trial, but for our next type of lawyer, that feeling is literal. Because when you see flashing blue and red lights in your rearview mirror, every decision you make in the next 5 minutes could determine the next 5 years of your life. This is the world of the criminal defense attorney. Let's be clear. The American justice system is an adversarial system. That means it's designed as a fight. On one side, you have the state, the government, represented by a prosecutor. They have nearly unlimited resources. Police departments, forensic labs, investigators, and the full power of the government behind them. Their job is to secure a conviction. And on the other side, there's you, alone. This is the single most terrifying power imbalance a citizen can face. And a criminal defense lawyer exists for one reason: to stand in that gap. To be your shield and your sword. Their client is not the truth. Their client is not justice. Their client is you. Their sole sworn duty is to protect your constitutional rights and fight for your interests, and your interests alone. The moment you are detained or arrested, the clock starts ticking. The police are trained to get information from you. They can be friendly, they can be intimidating, they can offer you a coffee, they can suggest that if you just explain your side of the story, this can all be cleared up. They are legally allowed to lie to you during an interrogation. They might say your friend in the other room already confessed. They might say they have evidence they don't. They are doing their job. Your job is to do yours, which is to say 5 magic words. I want to speak to my lawyer. And then you must be silent. Anything you say, even I don't understand, or I was just driving my friend home, can be twisted and used against you. Your attempt to explain yourself can become the rope they use to hang you. A criminal defense attorney stops all of that. Once you invoke your right to counsel, the police are legally required to stop questioning you. Your lawyer becomes your mouthpiece. Criminal law is divided into 2 main categories: misdemeanors and felonies. Misdemeanors are less serious offenses, things like petty theft, trespassing, or a first offense DUI. Felonies are the serious crimes: assault, robbery, drug trafficking, murder. The consequences are life-altering: long prison sentences, massive fines, and the loss of fundamental rights, like the right to vote or own a firearm. A defense attorney's work starts immediately. They will fight to get you released on bail. They will analyze the prosecution's case, looking for holes. Was the traffic stop legal? Was the search warrant valid? Was the evidence handled properly? They will file motions to suppress evidence that was obtained illegally, which can sometimes gut the prosecution's entire case before it even gets to a jury. Most criminal cases, over 90%, don't actually go to trial. They end in a plea bargain. This is where the defense attorney negotiates with the prosecutor. Maybe you plead guilty to a lesser charge in exchange for a lighter sentence. This is where a skilled lawyer is invaluable. They know the prosecutors, they know the judges, and they know what a fair deal looks like. They can advise you on whether to take the deal or to take your chances at trial. And if you do go to trial, the lawyer is your champion in the courtroom. They cross-examine witnesses, present evidence in your favor, and argue your case to the jury. They hold the prosecution to their burden of proof, beyond a reasonable doubt. This is the highest standard in law, and it's your lawyer's job to create that doubt. Whether you are innocent and wrongly accused or guilty and made a terrible mistake, the need for a criminal defense attorney is the same. The system is too powerful and the stakes are too high to face it alone. Your freedom, your future, your very name is on the line. And a criminal defense attorney is the only person in that entire system whose sole job is to fight for you. But what if the battle isn't in a courtroom, but at a closing table? What if the contract you're about to sign for a business or a new home could cost you everything? That's where our next lawyer comes in. The transactional lawyer. This is a completely different species from the courtroom warriors we just discussed. If a criminal defense attorney is a gladiator, the transactional lawyer is an architect. They don't win battles. They build fortresses of paper and ink designed to make sure a battle never needs to be fought in the first place. Their world isn't about reasonable doubt. It's about due diligence. It's not about cross-examination. It's about clauses and contingencies. Let's start with one of the biggest moments in anyone's life: buying a home. Imagine a young couple. Let's call them Jessica and Tom. They've saved for years, sacrificing vacations and nights out. They finally have the down payment for their dream home. It has a big backyard for a future dog, and a kitchen that looks like it's straight out of a magazine. They're ecstatic. The seller accepts their offer and suddenly, a tidal wave of paper hits their inbox. 150 pages of dense, impenetrable legalese. The purchase agreement, the title report, the seller's disclosures, the homeowners association covenants. Jessica and Tom are smart people. She's a nurse, he's a graphic designer. But looking at these documents, they feel like they're trying to read a foreign language. They see words like easement, encumbrance, and lien. They skim it, sign where the real estate agent tells them to, and hope for the best. This is where the dream can curdle into a nightmare. Because buried in that mountain of paper, on page 87 of the title report, is a single line item they didn't understand. It's a mechanic's lien from a contractor who renovated the kitchen 2 years ago, but was never fully paid by the previous owner. It's for $35,000. Under the law in their state, that debt is now attached to the property. It's their debt. The moment they signed those papers, they inherited a $35,000 problem they knew nothing about. Or maybe the problem is an easement. That big, beautiful backyard they dreamed of? It turns out a utility company has a 20-foot wide easement running right through the middle of it, giving them the right to dig a massive trench for new pipes whenever they want. Goodbye, future swimming pool. Goodbye, peace of mind. This is the world of the real estate lawyer. They are your professional skeptic. They are the person you pay to assume the worst. They read every single line of every single document with a magnifying glass, looking for traps. Their job is to translate that foreign language into plain English and tell you exactly what you are signing. They conduct a thorough title search, not just skimming the report, but digging into the public records to ensure the property you're buying is clean, free of hidden debts, ownership disputes, and claims from long-lost heirs. They'll find that $35,000 lien and demand the seller pay it off before the closing. They'll discover that utility easement and explain the exact limitations it places on your property, allowing you to decide if it's a deal breaker. They'll review the seller's disclosure and notice that the seller checked no on any history of water damage, even though a faint stain on the ceiling in the inspection photos suggests otherwise. They then have the power to negotiate for repairs for a lower price, or for a clean exit from the deal, getting your deposit back. For a relatively small fee, a real estate lawyer provides an immense, almost incalculable value: certainty. The certainty that the biggest purchase of your life is safe. They are the silent guardian of the American dream, ensuring the foundation of your new home is made of solid legal ground, not financial quicksand. Now let's take that same principle and apply it to another American dream: starting a business. Let's say Tom, the graphic designer, has a brilliant idea for a new app. He and his best friend David have been coding it in their garage for a year. It's finally ready. They're about to seek funding, hire their first employee, and sign an office lease. They're excited, they're moving fast, and they do what so many entrepreneurs do. They shake hands, agree to a 50-50 split, and download a generic business formation template from the internet. This is the business equivalent of signing a home purchase agreement without reading it. It's a ticking time bomb. What kind of company are they? An LLC? An S-corp? A partnership? Each has massive long-term implications for taxes, liability, and their ability to raise money. Who owns the code they wrote? Is it the company? Or do they own it individually? What happens if, a year from now, David decides he wants out? Does he get to take half the code with him? Can he sell his 50% share to a complete stranger, or even a competitor? What happens if Tom and David have a major disagreement on the future of the company? With a 50-50 split and no tiebreaker rules, the business can be paralyzed, doomed to fail not because the idea was bad, but because the legal structure was non-existent. This is where the corporate lawyer or business lawyer becomes the most valuable player on your team. Just like the real estate lawyer, they are an architect. They sit down with Tom and David and ask the hard questions, the what-if scenarios that are uncomfortable to talk about, but are absolutely critical to plan for. They don't just file paperwork. They design a bespoke legal structure for the business. They'll explain the pros and cons of forming an LLC versus a C corporation, guiding them to the choice that best fits their goals. They will draft a rock-solid operating agreement or shareholder agreement. This document is the constitution for the company. It will clearly define ownership, roles, and responsibilities. It will create a vesting schedule, meaning Tom and David don't own their full 50% on day one. They earn it over several years, which protects the company if one of them leaves early. It will include a buy-sell provision, A prenuptial agreement for the business that dictates exactly how a founder can be bought out, at what price and under what conditions. They will handle intellectual property, ensuring that the brilliant code Tom and David wrote is legally assigned to and owned by the company itself, protecting it from being fractured or stolen. They'll review that office lease to make sure it doesn't contain a clause that could bankrupt the company if they need to break it. They'll draft employment agreements and contracts for freelancers that protect the company's trade secrets. A corporate lawyer builds the vessel that allows the business to navigate the treacherous waters of commerce. Without that strong hull, even the best idea will sink at the first sign of a storm. They are the ultimate preventative measure, the strategist who ensures your dream of building an empire doesn't get destroyed by a simple, avoidable legal mistake made on day one. These transactional lawyers, whether for property or for a company, operate in the world of foresight. They are paid to see around corners, to anticipate conflict, and to neutralize it before it ever begins. They build the legal walls that protect your assets, your family's future, and your life's work. But what happens when the walls that crumble are the ones inside your own home? What happens when the partnership that's dissolving isn't a business, but a marriage? That's when you need an entirely different kind of expert and your life's work. But what happens when the walls that crumble are the ones inside your own home? What happens when the partnership that's dissolving isn't a business, but a marriage? That's when you need an entirely different kind of expert. This is the realm of the family law attorney, and their work is arguably one of the most emotionally charged and deeply personal fields in the entire legal profession. Think about it. There is nothing more fundamental to our lives than our family. It's our foundation, our safe harbor. When that foundation cracks, the resulting earthquake can shake every single aspect of your existence. Your home, your finances, your relationship with your children, your entire sense of identity. A corporate lawyer might be fighting over $1 billion patent, but a family lawyer is fighting over a child's bedtime. And I can tell you the stakes often feel much, much higher in that second fight. Let's step into a world that, unfortunately, nearly half of all married couples in the United States will experience. Imagine a couple, we'll call them Michael and Sarah. They met in college. They have a 15-year history, a house in the suburbs with a slightly crooked fence they always meant to fix, 2 kids, a 12-year-old son and an 8-year-old daughter, and a shared life packed into photo albums and storage boxes in the attic. From the outside, they look like the American dream. But inside, the dream has been quietly fading for years. The conversations have become shorter, the silences longer. And one Tuesday night, after the kids are asleep, the word is finally spoken aloud: divorce. Suddenly, their shared life becomes a list of assets and liabilities to be divided. The house isn't a home anymore. It's a marital asset. The retirement account isn't a future they were building together. It's a number to be split. This is the moment a family lawyer enters the picture. And their first job is often to be a translator, not of a foreign language but of emotion into logic. They have to take the years of hurt, resentment, and sadness and translate it into the cold, hard language of the law. Petitions, filings, and discovery. The central pillar of their work is, of course, the dissolution of the marriage itself. In the United States, every state now offers some form of no-fault divorce, meaning you don't have to prove that someone did something wrong, like adultery or abandonment, to get divorced. You can simply state that the marriage has irretrievably broken down. This was a massive legal revolution that removed a layer of shame and accusation from the process. However, the absence of fault in ending the marriage doesn't mean the process is free of conflict. Far from it. The first major battleground is often the division of property. The lawyer has to guide Michael and Sarah through this minefield. The United States is generally split into 2 systems. Most states are equitable distribution states. This doesn't mean 50-50th. It means fair. A judge will look at a dozen factors: the length of the marriage, the earning capacity of each spouse, who was the primary caregiver for the children. Maybe Sarah put her career on hold to raise the kids while Michael climbed the corporate ladder. The court will see her contribution as a homemaker as having real economic value, and will divide the assets equitably to reflect that. A smaller number of states, like California and Texas, are community property states. Here the logic is simpler, at least on the surface. Generally, anything acquired during the marriage, from a salary to a car to a stock portfolio, is considered owned 50-50 by the community of the marriage, and it gets split right down the middle. It sounds straightforward, but a family lawyer's real skill is in the details. Tracing what was an inheritance versus a marital purchase, valuing a small business, or finding assets one spouse might be trying to hide. Then comes spousal support or alimony. This is one of the most misunderstood concepts. It's not a punishment. It's a tool to ensure the lower-earning spouse doesn't face financial ruin after the divorce, especially after a long marriage where one person sacrificed their career. The lawyer's job is to argue for a number that's fair, based on need and the ability to pay, ensuring their client can land on their feet and build a new independent life. But all of that, the house, the money, the retirement accounts, all of it pales in comparison to the next issue. The one that keeps parents up at night, staring at the ceiling. The children. When it comes to child custody, the family lawyer's role shifts dramatically. They are no longer just an advocate for their client. They are an officer of the court, bound to seek a solution that is in the best interests of the child. This is the universal standard across all 50 states. It's not about what Michael wants or what Sarah wants. It's about what's best for their 12-year-old son and their 8-year-old daughter. The lawyer has to help them navigate two types of custody. First, there's legal custody. This is the right to make major decisions about the children's lives. What school they attend, what doctor they see, what religious upbringing they have, if any. Courts overwhelmingly favor joint legal custody, wanting both parents to be involved in these big decisions. Second, there's physical custody. This is about where the children live, where they lay their heads at night. This is where the most heart-wrenching battles are fought. Will it be a 50-50 split? Will one parent be the primary residential parent while the other has a visitation schedule every other weekend and Wednesday dinners? The lawyer helps create a detailed parenting plan that maps this all out. It's a blueprint for a family that now lives in two separate homes. It covers holidays, birthdays, summer vacations, who picks them up from soccer practice. It's an attempt to create predictability and stability for children in a world that has been turned completely upside down. And alongside custody comes child support. This is a financial calculation, determined by state guidelines, to ensure both parents are contributing financially to their children's needs. It's based on income and the amount of time the children spend with each parent. The lawyer ensures the numbers are accurate and the obligation is fair. A great family lawyer is more than just a legal technician. They are part therapist, part financial planner, and part crisis manager. They are the person who takes the frantic, tearful 10 p.m. phone call. They are the calm, steady voice in a mediation room thick with tension. They have to tell their client hard truths like, no, you're not going to get the house and all the money, or yes, you are going to have to learn to co-parent with the person you currently can't stand to be in the same room with. They absorb their client's anger and grief so that they can present a clear, logical case to a judge. And their work isn't just divorce. Family law is a broad umbrella. These are the lawyers who handle the joyous process of adoption, legally creating a new family. They draft prenuptial agreements or prenups for couples who want to define their financial terms before getting married. A pragmatic act of planning, not a prediction of failure. And on the darkest side of the spectrum, they are the ones who stand up for victims of domestic violence, going to court to get emergency restraining orders to protect a spouse or a child from harm. They are frontline workers in the most intimate crises a person can face. For Michael and Sarah, after months of painful negotiations guided by their lawyers, they reach a settlement. They avoid a messy, public court battle. Sarah and the kids will stay in the house for 2 more years until their daughter finishes elementary school, at which point they'll sell it and split the proceeds. They have a detailed parenting plan that gives them both substantial time with their children. A family didn't end, it just changed its shape. The lawyers didn't break them apart. They helped them find a way to move forward, to build 2 new, separate, but stable foundations from the rubble of one. They provided the map to navigate the end of one chapter, and the legal framework to begin the next. The work of a family lawyer is a testament to the fact that some of the biggest legal battles aren't fought in corporate boardrooms, but across a kitchen table. They manage the dissolution of our most sacred contracts. But what happens when the damage isn't emotional or financial, but physical? What happens when a single moment of someone else's carelessness changes your body, your health, and your ability to live your life? When you're lying in a hospital bed, facing a mountain of medical bills because of an accident that wasn't your fault, you need a different kind of champion. You need a personal injury lawyer. This is the lawyer you see on billboards, the one whose commercials you hear on the radio. And because of that, it's easy to become numb to what they actually do. But their role is one of the most fundamentally important in our entire legal system. Personal injury law is built on a simple ancient principle. If someone harms you through their carelessness, they are responsible for fixing the damage. They are responsible for making you whole again. The legal term for this carelessness is negligence. And to understand the world of a personal injury attorney, you have to understand negligence. It's not some complicated legal jargon. It's a four-part story that these lawyers tell every single day. First, there's duty. We all have a duty of care to one another. When you get behind the wheel of a 2-ton vehicle, you have a duty to pay attention to the road and obey traffic laws. When a grocery store opens its doors to the public, it has a duty to keep its floors reasonably safe and clean. A doctor has a duty to provide a standard level of medical care. It's the invisible social contract we all sign just by living in a society. Second, there's breach. This is where the story takes a turn. The driver looks down to read a text message. The store manager knows a freezer is leaking but doesn't put up a warning sign. The doctor is overworked and misreads a critical lab result. They breached their duty. They broke the rule. Third, and this is crucial, is causation. The breach must be the direct cause of the injury. Because the driver ran the red light, they T-boned your car. Because the store ignored the puddle, you slipped and shattered your ankle. Because the doctor misread the test, a treatable condition was allowed to become life-threatening. There has to be a direct, unbroken line connecting their mistake to your harm. And finally, there are damages. This is the result of everything that came before. Damages aren't just the medical bills, though those are a huge part of it. It's the wages you lost because you couldn't work. It's the future income you'll never earn because you're now permanently disabled. It's the cost of physical therapy, wheelchairs, and home modifications. And it's also the non-economic damages, the pain, the suffering, the emotional distress, the loss of enjoyment of life. How do you put a price on not being able to pick up your child anymore? That's the question these lawyers have to answer. Now, here is the single most important thing to understand about personal injury lawyers, and it's the reason they are so accessible to the average person. They almost always work on what's called a contingency fee basis. This one concept is the key that unlocks the courthouse doors for everyday Americans. It means they don't get paid unless you get paid. Think about it. You've just been in a serious accident. You're out of work. The bills are piling up. The last thing you can afford is to pay a lawyer hundreds of dollars an hour. The contingency fee model flips that on its head. The lawyer takes on all the financial risk. They pay for the filing fees, the expert witnesses, the depositions, the investigation, everything. They invest their own money and their own time into your case. In exchange for that risk, if they win a settlement or a verdict for you, they receive a percentage of that amount, typically around 33 to 40%. If they lose, they get nothing. Zero. All that time and money they invested is gone. This system does two incredible things. First, it gives everyone, regardless of their wealth, a fair shot at justice against powerful opponents. And who is that opponent? It's almost never the person who hit you. It's their insurance company. And this is the real battle. You're not fighting another driver. You're fighting a multi-billion-dollar corporation with armies of adjusters and lawyers whose entire job, day in and day out, is to pay you as little as possible. Their business model is based on collecting premiums and minimizing payouts. Your well-being is not their primary concern. They'll call you right after the accident, sometimes while you're still on pain medication, and try to get a recorded statement to use against you later. They'll offer you a quick, lowball settlement of a few $1,000s, hoping you'll take it before you realize the true extent of your injuries, and that your surgery will actually cost $100,000. A personal injury lawyer is the shield that stands between you and them. They take over all communication. They handle the pressure, the paperwork, and the aggressive tactics so you can focus on the one thing that matters: healing. The second thing the contingency fee system does is act as a natural filter for frivolous lawsuits. You hear about them all the time, this idea that people are just suing for anything to get rich. But think about it from the lawyer's perspective. Would a lawyer risk tens of thousands of dollars of their own money and hundreds of hours of their time on a case they didn't strongly believe had merit and a high probability of success? Absolutely not. It would be financial suicide. They only take cases they believe in, cases where real people have suffered real harm because of someone else's proven negligence. The famous McDonald's hot coffee case is a perfect example. The media portrayed it as a woman spilling coffee on herself and winning millions. The reality? Stella Liebeck, a 79-year-old woman, suffered third-degree burns over 16% of her body, requiring extensive skin grafts. The coffee wasn't just hot. It was served at a temperature that was borderline scalding, something McDonald's had received over 700 prior complaints about. She only wanted them to cover her medical bills of $20,000. They offered her $800. The lawsuit was a last resort. and the jury's verdict was a message to a corporation that was knowingly endangering its customers. That's the kind of fight a personal injury lawyer takes on. They are investigators, piecing together accident reports, interviewing witnesses, and hiring engineers to reconstruct a collision. They are negotiators, spending months, sometimes years, battling with insurance adjusters to reach a fair settlement. And if the insurance company refuses to be fair, they become trial lawyers, standing in front of a jury and telling your story, making 12 strangers understand the full impact this event has had on your life. They can't turn back time. They can't erase the scars or heal the chronic pain. But what they can do is fight to secure the financial resources you need to put the pieces of your life back together. They fight to ensure that one moment of carelessness doesn't lead to a lifetime of financial ruin. But what happens when the injury isn't to your body, but to your business? What happens when the harm isn't a broken bone, but a broken contract? When the dispute isn't over a car crash, but over the control of a company you poured your life into? In the world of commerce, where fortunes are made and lost on the strength of a handshake or the fine print of a document, you need an entirely different kind of gladiator. This gladiator doesn't fight in a courtroom filled with tearful witnesses and dramatic objections. They fight in a boardroom, a sterile conference space where the air hums with the silent tension of billion-dollar decisions. Their weapons aren't impassioned closing arguments. They are 300-page contracts, labyrinthine spreadsheets, and the strategic deployment of a single, devastatingly precise clause. This is the world of the corporate lawyer, sometimes called a business attorney. They are the architects, the guardians, and sometimes the executioners of the American dream. When you think of a corporate lawyer, you might picture a shark from a movie, a ruthless negotiator in a $1,000 suit. And while that's not entirely wrong, it's a very incomplete picture. The field is vast, but it generally splits into two massive categories: the builders and the breakers. Or, more formally, transactional lawyers and commercial litigators. Your transactional corporate lawyer is the architect. They build things. Imagine you and two friends have a world-changing idea for an app you've been coding in a garage. You're about to change the world, but first you have to deal with the world. Do you form an LLC? An S-Corp? A C-Corp? What's the difference? Who owns what percentage of the company? What happens if one of you wants to leave in a year? What if you want to bring in an investor? These aren't just questions, they are landmines. A transactional lawyer helps you navigate this minefield. They draft the foundational documents of your company, the operating agreements, the bylaws, the shareholder agreements. This isn't just paperwork. It's the constitution of your new business kingdom. It dictates the rules of power, the distribution of wealth, and the plan for when things inevitably get complicated. They build the corporate structure brick by legal brick, ensuring it's strong enough to withstand storms and support future growth. They are there for the good times, raising capital, acquiring another company, preparing for an IPO. They are the optimists, the deal makers, the ones who turn a handshake into an ironclad, enforceable reality. But what happens when the deal sours? When the handshake is forgotten and the partnership turns toxic? That's when you call the other kind of corporate lawyer, the commercial litigator. They are the breakers, or more accurately, the defenders of what's been built. They step in when contracts are breached, when partners sue each other for control, when a supplier fails to deliver on a multi-million-dollar promise. This is the gladiator we hinted at. Their arena is still off in the boardroom for negotiations and mediation, but they are always prepared to take the fight to the courthouse. They dissect those 300-page contracts, looking for leverage, for loopholes, for the single sentence that can win the entire war. While a personal injury lawyer argues about the physics of a car crash, a commercial litigator argues about the interpretation of net revenue or the definition of reasonable effort in a distribution agreement. The stakes are just as high. The life of a company, hundreds of jobs, and generations of work can hang in the balance. Within this massive universe of business law, however, lies a subspecialty so critical, so fundamental to modern commerce, that it deserves its own spotlight. It deals not with the company's structure or its disputes, but with its very soul, its ideas. This is the domain of the intellectual property lawyer, or IP attorney. In the 21st century, the most valuable assets a company owns are often things you can't even touch. It's not the factory or the office building. It's the formula for a soft drink, the design of a smartphone, the algorithm that powers a search engine, the brand name that everyone recognizes. IP law is the force field that protects these intangible, yet priceless assets. IP law itself breaks down into three main territories. First, there are patents. Patent protects an invention, It grants the inventor a temporary monopoly, the exclusive right to make, use, and sell their creation. Think of the pharmaceutical company that spends $1 billion developing a new life-saving drug. The patent is what allows them to recoup that investment. Without it, a competitor could simply replicate the chemical formula and sell it the next day, destroying the incentive to innovate in the first place. A patent attorney is a unique breed. They often need a background in science or engineering, in chemistry, in computer science, in mechanical engineering, because to protect an invention, you first have to understand it at a deeply technical level. They conduct exhaustive searches to make sure your idea is truly new, and then they draft a patent application so detailed, so precise, that it can withstand challenges from the biggest competitors in the world. It's a grueling, expensive, and often years-long process, but at the end of it, you hold a government-granted shield for your brilliant idea. Next, there are trademarks. If a patent protects what you make, a trademark protects who you are. It's your identity in the marketplace. The golden arches of McDonald's, the Nike swoosh, the distinctive shape of a Coca-Cola bottle. These are all trademarks. They are symbols that carry immense value, built over decades of quality, advertising, and customer trust. A trademark attorney helps a business select a name or logo that can actually be protected. You can't just trademark the word Apple, if you're selling apples, and then they register it with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. This registration puts the entire country on notice. This brand is ours. If a new burger joint opens up down the street using a logo with golden arches, McDonald's trademark lawyers will be sending them a very polite, but very firm letter. They police the marketplace, protecting their client's reputation and goodwill from imitators, counterfeiters, and anyone trying to ride on their coattails. Finally, there is the world of copyrights. Copyright protects original works of authorship. This script, the music you hear in a movie, the photographs on a website, the code that makes up a software program, the architectural design of a building, all of it is protected by copyright. Unlike patents and trademarks, copyright protection is automatic. The moment I write a sentence or a musician records a melody, a copyright exists. So why do you need a lawyer? Because asserting and defending that copyright is the hard part. A copyright lawyer steps in when a film studio uses a song without permission, when a website steals articles from a news organization, or when a t-shirt company prints a photographer's image without paying for it. They help creators formally register their copyrights with the U.S. Copyright Office, which is a prerequisite for filing a lawsuit and can entitle the creator to significant damages. They are the champions of the artists, the writers, the coders, and the creators, ensuring that the people who create the culture get to control it and profit from it. These lawyers, corporate, patent, trademark, copyright, are the unseen scaffolding of our economy. They help a founder turn a dream into an LLC. They help that LLC secure its brand with a trademark and protect its core technology with a patent. And if someone tries to steal that technology or infringe on that brand, they defend it in court. They are the guardians of innovation and the gatekeepers of commerce. They work to build fortunes, to protect legacies, and to ensure that an idea, the most powerful force in the world, is also a legally protected one. So you've built an empire, protected your ideas, and your company is worth millions, maybe even billions. But what happens when the one asset you can't protect, your own life, comes to an end? Who gets the keys to the kingdom you've built? The answer to that question lies in the hands of a lawyer who deals not with the creation of fortune, but with its careful, deliberate, and final distribution. This is the realm of the estate planning attorney, a legal professional who is less a courtroom warrior and more a master architect of legacy. They don't just draft documents, they build a fortress around your family's future, ensuring that the fruits of your life's labor are a blessing, not a curse, to those you leave behind. Because without a plan, your legacy can become a battlefield. Think about it. Every single thing you own, your house, your car, your investments, that collection of vintage comic books, even your dog, is part of your estate. When you're gone, the state doesn't just let your family divvy it up. Oh no, it steps in with a process called probate. And probate is a bureaucratic nightmare. It's a public, expensive, and painfully slow court proceeding designed to validate your will, pay off your debts, and distribute what's left. It can drag on for months, sometimes years, freezing your assets and bleeding your estate dry with court fees and legal bills, all while your grieving family is left in limbo, unable to access the resources you intended for them. This is where the estate planning lawyer becomes your family's most valuable player. Their primary tool is crafting a legally sound, personalized plan to keep you and your assets as far away from a probate court as possible. The most famous of these tools is, of course, the last will and testament. A will is your direct instruction who gets what. It's where you name a guardian for your minor children. A decision so critical you should never, ever leave it up to a judge who doesn't know you. But here's the secret most people don't know. A will by itself does not avoid probate. In fact, a will is essentially a letter to the probate judge. Its main purpose is to be validated by the court. It's a vital document, but it's often just the first step. The real power play, the move that separates the amateurs from the pros, is the trust. A trust is like a private contract, a legal entity you create to hold your assets for the benefit of your chosen people. Think of it like a treasure chest. While you're alive, you're the one who holds the key. You can put things in, take things out, change the instructions on the lock. This is called a revocable living trust. But when you pass away, a successor trustee you've already named, a trusted family member, a friend, or a professional, gets the key. They don't need a judge's permission. They just follow the crystal clear instructions you left inside. The house goes to your daughter. The investment account is managed for your son's college education. The business is transferred seamlessly. No court, no public record, no delay. It's private, efficient, and ironclad. Trust can do incredible things. A special needs trust can provide for a disabled child without disqualifying them from essential government benefits. A spendthrift trust can protect a beneficiary from their own poor financial decisions, doling out their inheritance in controlled installments instead of a lump sum they might squander. For high net worth individuals, complex trusts can be used to minimize or even eliminate crushing estate taxes, which can claim over 40% of an inheritance. This isn't just about passing on money. It's about passing on security, opportunity, and peace of mind, all while protecting your family from both outsiders and themselves. But estate planning isn't just about what happens after you die. It's also about what happens if you're still alive, but can't make decisions for yourself. What if you're in a car accident and end up in a coma? Who pays your mortgage? Who manages your business? Who tells the doctors your wishes about life support? Without a plan, your family would have to go to court and petition for a conservatorship or guardianship. Another expensive, public, and agonizing legal process, where a judge decides who controls your life and your money. To prevent this, an estate planning attorney prepares two of the most important documents you might ever sign: a durable power of attorney for finances and an advance healthcare directive, or living will. The first document appoints someone you trust to handle your financial affairs if you become incapacitated. The second appoints a healthcare agent and lays out your exact wishes regarding medical treatment. These aren't documents about death. They are documents about dignity. They ensure that even if you lose your voice, your wishes will still be heard, loud and clear. Failing to plan is, quite literally, planning to fail your family at their most vulnerable moment. It's an invitation for chaos. I've heard the horror stories from attorneys in this field. Siblings who were once best friends suing each other over their parents' house because there was no clear will. A family business collapsing because the founder's assets were frozen in probate for 18 months. A young widow with 2 kids being forced to sell her home to pay the bills because she couldn't access her late husband's bank accounts. These are not rare occurrences. They happen every single day in every town across America. And every single one of them could have been avoided with a few hours and a frank conversation with an estate planning attorney. They don't just sell documents. They sell a future free from preventable conflict and chaos. They ensure the final chapter of your story is one of peace and provision, not a courtroom drama. So these attorneys protect the empire after it's been built. They stand guard over the accumulated assets of a lifetime. But how is that empire built in the first place? How does a spark of an idea, scribbled on a napkin, transform into a living, breathing corporation that employs hundreds and generates millions? That process, from creation to operation to sale, is overseen by a completely different type of legal architect. This lawyer doesn't deal in wills and trusts, but in shares and bylaws, contracts, and compliance. They are the silent partners to every great entrepreneur. They are corporate lawyers, the architects of commerce. While a family lawyer protects your home, a corporate lawyer builds the entire skyscraper. Their work begins not with a crisis but with an idea, often one scribbled on the back of a napkin. That simple sketch for a new app, a new restaurant, a new service, that's their starting block. Their very first job is to give that idea a legal body, a skeleton on which to build a business empire. This is called entity formation, and it's one of the most critical decisions a founder will ever make. Will it be a limited liability company, an LLC, to shield the owner's personal assets, their house, their car, their savings from business debts? This is the famous corporate veil, a legal fortress wall that separates you from your company. Or maybe it's an S-corp for a different tax structure. Or, if the goal is to attract big league investors and one day go public on the stock market, it must be a C corporation. Each choice has profound, long-lasting consequences for liability, taxation, and the ability to grow. The corporate lawyer isn't just filling out paperwork. They are selecting the foundational DNA of the entire enterprise. A mistake here is like building a skyscraper on a foundation of sand. Once the business has a legal form, it needs to interact with the world. And in the world of commerce, every interaction is a contract. This is the true domain of the corporate lawyer. They are masters of the written agreement. From the employment contract you sign on your first day, to the lease for the office space, to the multi-million-dollar agreement with a manufacturer overseas, to the terms and conditions you scroll past and click agree on every single day, they wrote all of it. To the untrained eye, these documents are a sea of impenetrable legalese. To the corporate lawyer, they are a strategic battlefield. Every comma, every clause, is a potential landmine or a shield. They draft contracts that don't just outline a deal. They anticipate every possible future disagreement. What happens if a supplier delivers late? What happens if a key employee quits and tries to steal clients? What happens if the software has a bug? A well-drafted contract is a roadmap for resolving conflict before it even begins, saving the company from devastating lawsuits down the line. They are playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers, thinking 10 moves ahead to protect the company's future. But it's not just about building walls. It's also about building bridges. Corporate lawyers are the ultimate deal makers. When a promising startup needs money to grow, a corporate lawyer structures the financing round. They negotiate with venture capitalists and angel investors, ensuring the founders get the capital they need without giving away control of their company. They navigate the complex world of stock options and equity, the very currency of Silicon Valley. And then comes the pinnacle of corporate law, mergers and acquisitions, or M&A. This is where companies are bought and sold in deals that can be worth billions, even trillions of dollars. An M&A lawyer's life during one of these deals is a pressure cooker of high-stakes negotiation. They lead the charge in a process called due diligence, which is the corporate equivalent of a full-body CAT scan. For weeks, sometimes months, teams of lawyers will pore over every single document the target company has ever created. Every contract, every employee file, every permit, every email, searching for hidden liabilities or red flags. They are looking for the legal skeletons in the closet that could derail a billion-dollar deal. At the same time, they are at the negotiating table, hammering out the intricate details of the purchase agreement, a document that can be hundreds of pages long. They fight over every word, every representation, every warranty because billions of dollars hang in the balance. This is the Super Bowl of corporate law, a brutal, intellectually demanding marathon that reshapes entire industries. Beyond the big deals, they are also the quiet guardians of corporate governance. They advise the board of directors, ensuring the company complies with a dizzying web of regulations from agencies like the Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC. They make sure shareholder meetings are run properly, that corporate records are meticulously kept, and that the company operates ethically and legally. This is the less glamorous side, but it's the work that keeps a company stable and prevents it from collapsing under the weight of scandal or government investigation. So, from that first napkin sketch to a Wall Street IPO, the corporate lawyer is there. They are the strategist, the negotiator, the protector, and the builder. They create the legal entity, they write the rules of its engagement with the world, they fuel its growth, and they oversee its greatest transformations. They build the corporate machine, tune its engine, and keep it running on the complex highways of American commerce. But in all this talk of contracts, assets, and corporate structures, we've overlooked something. We've talked about protecting the company as a physical and financial entity, but what about its most valuable asset? The one thing that can't be quantified on a balance sheet? What about the idea itself? The secret formula, the catchy brand name, the revolutionary software code, the unique design that makes a product iconic. Protecting this intangible intellectual gold requires a completely different kind of legal specialist, one who operates in the world of creativity and invention. Enter the intellectual property lawyer, or IP lawyer for short. These are the guardians of the mind. They don't protect your house or your car. They protect the flash of genius, the spark of inspiration that can change the world. Their domain is divided into 3, sometimes 4 major kingdoms: patents, trademarks, copyrights, and the shadowy world of trade secrets. Let's start with patents. A patent is a deal with the government. You, the inventor, reveal your invention to the world in painstaking detail. In exchange, the government grants you a temporary monopoly, a period of time where you and only you can make, use, or sell that invention. It's the legal shield that allowed innovators like Thomas Edison to build empires on light bulbs and phonographs. Think about the smartphone in your pocket. It's not a single invention. It's a dense thicket of thousands of patents. The swiping motion to unlock it? Patented. The way it connects to a cell tower? Patented. The specific design of its rounded corners? Patented. This is where the patent attorney comes in. They are often more than just lawyers. Many have degrees in engineering, chemistry, or computer science. They have to be. To write a patent application, you must be able to speak the language of the invention. You have to describe it so precisely that someone skilled in the field could recreate it, but also so broadly that a competitor can't just change one tiny screw and claim it's a new invention. It's a tightrope walk of incredible technical and legal precision. Get it wrong, and your billion-dollar idea is worthless. Get it right, and you've built a fortress around your innovation. These lawyers don't just write applications. They fight wars. They are the generals in the epic patent litigation battles that define entire industries. When Apple sued Samsung, claiming Samsung's phones copied the look and feel of the iPhone, it wasn't just a business dispute. It was a global conflict fought by armies of patent attorneys in courtrooms across the world, with billions of dollars on the line. They also defend inventors against patent trolls, companies that don't invent anything themselves, but buy up old, often vague patents just to sue successful companies for infringement. The IP lawyer is the knight standing between the creator and those who would profit from their genius without contributing any of their own. Next, we move to the kingdom of trademarks. If a patent protects how something works, a trademark protects what it's called and how it looks. It's about identity. It's the Nike swoosh, the golden arches of McDonald's, the distinctive shape of a Coca-Cola bottle. A trademark is a symbol, a word, a design, even a sound or a color that tells you, the consumer, where a product comes from. It's a promise of quality, a badge of origin. Trademark lawyers help companies choose brand names that can actually be protected. You can't just call your new computer company Computer and expect to trademark it. It's too generic. These lawyers perform exhaustive searches to make sure a new logo or brand name isn't already in use. They register the trademarks with the government and, most importantly, they police their use. If a new burger joint opens up called McDowell's with slightly crooked golden arches, you can bet McDonald's trademark lawyers will be sending them a very strongly worded letter, known as a cease and desist. They protect the brand from becoming diluted or confused in the public mind. This isn't just about corporate pride. It's about protecting consumers from counterfeit goods and knockoffs, ensuring that when you buy a product with a famous logo, you're getting the real thing. Then there's the third great kingdom: copyrights. Copyright doesn't protect an idea. It protects the specific expression of an idea. You can't copyright the idea of a boy wizard who goes to a magic school, but you can copyright a 700-page book titled Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone that tells the story of that specific boy. Copyright is the lifeblood of authors, musicians, filmmakers, photographers, and software programmers. It's the law that gives them the exclusive right to reproduce, distribute, and perform their work. Copyright lawyers are at the center of the entertainment and tech industries. They draft the contracts that determine how much a musician gets paid when their song is streamed on Spotify. They sue people who illegally download movies. They navigate the incredibly complex world of music sampling, figuring out who owns the rights to a 2-second drum beat from a 1970s funk song. They are also the experts on fair use, the murky legal doctrine that allows people to use copyrighted material without permission for purposes like criticism, commentary, or parody, a concept that the entire YouTube ecosystem is built upon. The battle between Metallica and Napster in the early 2000s wasn't just about a band being angry. It was a landmark copyright war that fundamentally reshaped how we consume music, and the lawyers were the ones firing the legal cannons. Finally, there's the fourth, more secretive realm: trade secrets. A trade secret is information that a company keeps confidential to give it a competitive edge. The most famous example in history is the formula for Coca-Cola. It's never been patented. Why? Because a patent is public and it expires. A trade secret, if you can keep it, lasts forever. The recipe for KFC's fried chicken, the Google search algorithm. These are some of the most valuable assets on Earth, protected not by a government certificate, but by ironclad security and legal agreements. IP lawyers who specialize in trade secrets draft the non-disclosure agreements and non-compete clauses that prevent employees from walking out the door with the company's crown jewels. And when a secret is stolen, they launch aggressive litigation to retrieve it and punish the thieves, fighting high-stakes battles of corporate espionage in the courtroom. So, the intellectual property lawyer is the protector of the intangible. They are the champions of the new, the strange, and the brilliant. They ensure that creators and innovators can benefit from their work, which in turn encourages more innovation, more art, more progress. They fight to make sure that an idea, that fragile and powerful thing, can grow from a sketch on a napkin into a global phenomenon. But protecting an idea is one thing. Building and running the global empire that idea creates is another. That requires a lawyer who understands the very DNA of business itself, from a company's birth to its billion-dollar mergers. Enter the corporate lawyer. They are the architects of the American economy, the master strategists behind every Fortune 500 company, and the silent partners in every garage startup dreaming of becoming the next Google. When you think of a high-powered lawyer in a skyscraper office overlooking the city, negotiating billion-dollar deals, you're picturing a corporate lawyer. Their domain isn't the courtroom, it's the boardroom. Their weapon isn't a fiery closing argument. It's an ironclad contract, a brilliant negotiation tactic, and an encyclopedic knowledge of the rules that govern how businesses are born, how they grow, and how they conquer. Let's start at the very beginning. Imagine two friends, a coder and a designer, hunched over laptops in a cramped apartment. They've built an app that's about to change the world. It's brilliant. It works. People love it. But right now it's just an idea and some code. It's not a business. To turn their dream into a real company, their very first call shouldn't be to an investor. It should be to a corporate lawyer. Because the first decision they make is the most critical. What kind of company should they be? This isn't a simple choice. It's like choosing the foundation for a skyscraper. You can't see it once the building is up, but if it's wrong, the entire structure is at risk. The lawyer will walk them through the labyrinth of options. Should they be a limited liability company, an LLC, to shield their personal assets, their homes, their cars, their savings, from any business debts or lawsuits? This is a hugely popular choice for small businesses for that very reason. If the company goes under, creditors can't come after your house. Or maybe they have ambitions of seeking venture capital down the line. In that case, the lawyer might advise forming a C corporation. This structure is more complex, with a board of directors and stricter regulations, but it's the gold standard for investors. It allows the company to issue different classes of stock, which is essential for fundraising. An S corporation might be another option, offering some of the liability protection of a corporation, but with tax benefits similar to a partnership. The wrong choice can be catastrophic. Choose an LLC when you need a C corp, and you might find that big Silicon Valley venture fund won't even take your meeting. Get the tax structure wrong, and you could end up paying tens of thousands of dollars in unnecessary taxes, bleeding your startup dry before it even has a chance. The corporate lawyer isn't just filing paperwork with the state. They are building the vessel that will carry this idea on its journey, ensuring it's strong enough, flexible enough, and designed for the destination the founders want to reach. With the company legally born, the next phase begins: building the machine. A business doesn't run on ideas, it runs on agreements. And this is where the corporate lawyer becomes the chief mechanic. They draft, review, and negotiate the vast web of contracts that make a business function. Think about the founders themselves. They're best friends now, but success, money, and stress have a way of changing things. The lawyer drafts a founder's agreement, a critical document that outlines ownership percentages, roles and responsibilities, and most importantly, vesting schedules. Vesting means that each founder earns their ownership stake over time, typically 4 years. This prevents one founder from leaving after 6 months and taking a huge chunk of the company with them, leaving the others to do all the work. It's the legal version of "show me you're committed." Then come the employment agreements for their first hires, the non-disclosure agreements to protect their trade secrets when talking to potential partners, the contracts with vendors to build their servers, and the terms of service that every user has to click "I agree" on. Each one of these is a potential landmine. A poorly worded clause in a vendor contract could lock them into an overpriced, underperforming service for years. A weak non-disclosure agreement could see their billion-dollar idea stolen. Many startups think they can save money by pulling a generic contract template off the internet. This is like performing surgery on yourself after watching a YouTube video. A corporate lawyer understands the nuances. They know that a contract isn't just a piece of paper. It's a strategic tool. They can build in clauses that limit liability, ensure timely payment, and provide a clear path to resolve disputes without ending up in a costly court battle. They are playing chess, thinking 10 moves ahead to protect the company from every conceivable threat. Now the app is taking off. It has thousands of users, then hundreds of thousands. But to get to millions, they need fuel. They need capital. This is where the corporate lawyer puts on their investment banker hat and navigates the treacherous waters of securities law. The moment a company takes money from an outside investor in exchange for a piece of the company, that's called a security. And the buying and selling of securities is governed by a mountain of complex federal and state laws, enforced by the Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC. Breaking these rules isn't just a mistake. It's a federal offense that can lead to massive fines, being barred from running a company, and even prison time. The lawyer guides the founders through the fundraising process. They help prepare the company for the intense scrutiny of due diligence, where investors' legal teams will comb through every document, every contract, every record the company has ever produced, looking for skeletons in the closet. They negotiate the term sheet, the document that outlines the key terms of the investment. They'll fight for their clients on valuation, on the makeup of the board of directors, and on liquidation preferences, which determine who gets paid first if the company is sold. They are the shield, protecting the founders from predatory terms that could see them lose control of the very company they built. From a small seed round from angel investors to a massive Series C round from global venture capital firms, the corporate lawyer is the one ensuring every I is dotted, every T is crossed, and the entire multi-million-dollar transaction is perfectly legal and strategically sound. Years pass. The company is no longer a startup. It's a global force, a household name. And now it's time for the endgame: mergers and acquisitions, or M&A. This is the pinnacle of corporate law, where titans of industry collide and deals are measured in billions, not millions. The company might be acquiring a smaller competitor to absorb its technology and talent. Or the ultimate prize, the company itself is being acquired by a tech giant like Apple or Microsoft. The corporate M&A lawyer is the quarterback of this entire process. The due diligence phase is magnified 1,000 times over. A team of dozens of lawyers will spend months living in a data room, a secure digital repository containing every single document related to the target company. They are legal detectives, searching for any hidden liability, a pending lawsuit, an environmental problem, a major contract that can be terminated upon a change of control. Finding one of these red flags can kill a deal worth billions or force a massive reduction in the purchase price. At the same time, they are drafting and negotiating the purchase agreement, a document that can be hundreds of pages long. Every single word is a battle. They fight over representations and warranties, where the seller makes promises about the state of the business, and indemnification clauses, which determine who pays if one of those promises turns out to be false. The stakes are astronomical. A single misplaced comma could, in theory, shift millions of dollars of liability from one party to another. From the initial handshake to the final signature, the corporate lawyer is the indispensable guide, the architect of the deal, and the guardian of their clients' interests. They are the ones who turn ideas into LLCs, LLCs into corporations, and corporations into global empires. They build the legal and financial structures that underpin our entire economy. But what happens when the contracts are broken? The deals go sour, and the boardroom becomes a battlefield. When the carefully constructed architecture of a corporation is threatened not by a competitor, but by a lawsuit that could tear it all apart, that's when you stop calling your corporate lawyer and start calling a completely different kind of legal warrior.